Good evening and welcome to the venting session of one of the craziest, weirdest, stupidest football games I've ever seen in my entire adult life. I am your host, Greg Tompsett. I am joined by my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. Aaron, how's your heart rate? I had a warning on my Apple Watch.
My heart rate's actually fine. I have a freaking headache right now, Greg, just from all the thoughts that are racing
Oh my God.
in and out of my head from this game. I might be in concussion protocol from this game. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So I'm going to rattle off some crazy numbers here. We're going to go through all of our overall review and everything. We just watched one of the most ridiculous offensive performances in NFL history, literally up there with the famous Bills 49ers no punt game. Each team punted once here tonight. Unfortunately, one of the punts made, or I take that back twice. We made the Rams punt twice, the last play of the game. Unfortunately, the one time we punted, it went very, very poorly. But let me rattle off some numbers here. First downs, 25 to 28. There were 53 first downs in this game. Total yards, 445 to 457. 902 yards gained in this game. 16 third down conversions. The Bills had 8.2 yards per play. The Rams had 6.3. 342 yards passing to 320. 103 yards rushing to 137 yards rushing. Just an unbelievable offensive performance where realistically neither team could really do anything here. The Rams get a punt block for a touchdown, which gave them kind of the 2-score lead early on. And then when they went shot for shot back and forth, the Bills multiple times pulled it back within 3 points back within a score, but could not get a stop. Could not get more than one stop. They technically did get one stop in the second half.
Yeah.
And the Rams got one stop in the second half, the opening drive of the half, and it was simply a crazy offensive performance. There's going to be an incredible amount of questioning of a bunch of 50-50 calls. We'll go through each of them. I didn't agree with all of them, but I will say I think there's a lot of hindsight in the idea that there was an obvious right choice. I don't think there was. I think there was a bunch of 50-50 decisions. It sucks that all the 50-50 decisions didn't seem to go our way. The end result ended up not working. I don't think that there was when you're talking about going for it on 4th and 2 at your own 41 early on, I would have gone for it. You really needed a double dip very badly because we weren't stopping them at all. But we punted it and we ended up stopping them. Taking the penalty later on, it's 4th and 8, 4th and 9. I don't know exactly where they would have marked it. They end up going for it and they get 11 yards on their 4th down attempt. Do they not go for it when it's 4th and 8? Maybe they kick it from there. We take them back to go to 3rd and 19 or whatever it was, because the idea would be you'd take them out of field goal range and then they can't kick a field goal and you get a stop and you make them punt it back to you. Instead, they get 14 on 3rd and 19, get it to 4th and 5. They get 11 yards on their 4th down conversion. They end up going down, scoring a touchdown. You play zone the whole time, then you start blitzing more and playing man, and you make a couple plays, but they have 2 studs at receiver that end up continuing to make plays. And then the one I'm not going to give them any benefit of the doubt, hindsight. I don't know what the hierarchy is of Brady making the play call with a check option in place, McDermott needing to scream on the thing. You could tell he was mad after it happened. Josh checking into the quarterback sneak at the goal line when you have 3 timeouts on 1st and goal. You can't have it. You can't do it. I get it that it's a super high likelihood. We normally convert 4 out of 5. A lot of times we do it on 3rd down. We go for it again. We got it the second time. That happens all the time. In that scenario, you have to know that it's not feasible. You have 3 passes into the end zone. Super, super easy. You cannot check into that. Josh has to know that. That's really frustrating that he even thought that was feasible. I'm annoyed that Joe Brady left a play call possible where he could do it, and I'm furious that McDermott didn't scream into the headset, hey, no matter what, make sure it's a pass. That one I'm not going to give anybody a pass on, but all of those, none of them went our way, so everybody's going to be furious about the decisions involved. But ultimately, it was the defense that couldn't get a stop. The Rams' offense was just enough better than ours that they win 44-42 in a crazy, insane game that probably every non-Bills Rams fan had an awesome time. That was probably an incredibly entertaining game. We're probably the only ones really frustrated and annoyed right now.
Yeah, I'm frustrated and annoyed by the results. I had a fun time watching this football game, right? Like, objectively
Oh, it was
good.
awesome.
It was a fun game. This is the kind of games the NFL wants. Matthew Stafford put on an absolute clinic. Even as mad as I am at the defense, a lot of the times when I thought stops were possible, he was just putting balls where no coverage was good, and
Puka Nakua
nobody.
had like 3 catches I still can't believe he made in perfect coverage.
Perfect coverage on big ones too, like 3rd and 9s where they actually had an opportunity to get off the field and just could not do it. And honestly, this was super frustrating because I do think the Bills made some adjustments defensively and stopped some of the things that were happening. And then McVay just made additional adjustments and got right at him. And I saw a lot of people screaming for, hey, they're in zone. They got to stop playing zone. Well, you know what? They got busted up in man too. McVay and Stafford were just in their bag today. And so we will overanalyze all the decisions that were made within it and probably put all those under a microscope. But ultimately, you played a team, again, we talked about this a little bit, a team desperate to get a win in a game that they needed, getting back healthy, and they probably played their absolute perfect game that they've played in a long time. And some of that was the Bills' defense inability to stop it. I'm having a hard time figuring out where to point the finger. I don't know. I said I've been a big defender of Sean McDermott, right? And I still think he's a good coach. I'm not going to throw out everything because of this one loss. Honestly, this loss is there's not a lot of consequence to this. They're still a 10-3 team. Pretty much everything they want still in front of them. They're going to need a little bit more of Kansas City slipping up in order to get that 1 seed. I don't know that 4 weeks ago any of us were really considering the 1 seed until they beat Kansas City, right? We were all happy to get to the playoffs and win your division. Oh, you're on mute there.
Yeah, until they beat Kansas City and San Francisco back to back.
Yeah.
It wasn't even really.
And so I think everything they want still ahead of them. I do think this gives the McDermott haters some ammo for the feelings that they have of him tightening up in some of these games. But to your point, like, I don't know that the decisions are slam dunks as people in my mentions are trying to tell me they were. The 4th and 2, I guess you can go either way. I'm not mad at it in that situation. The offense was a little clunky to start. It was relying on Josh being Josh, and he did a lot of Josh being Josh things, but you need that on 3rd and 2 in a better play call there and in a better adjustment there to put yourself in a position. If it's a 4th and 1, I think they might go for it. That was a long 2 at that point. I don't know that they felt confident in the offense to be able to rip off a precise play the way that the Rams were doing. So that one I can give a pass. I would, if they would have gone for it, fine. But again, the defense, you're giving them the ball back with 40 seconds. The defense isn't really going to stop them. What if they score right there and then the game's just totally out of reach and you're not even able to get it to this exciting finish that we saw? If we're going to play hindsight, you got to play it both ways with the butterfly effect, right?
I think the challenge, we might as well talk through that one. The challenge is you're giving them the ball either way. You had just given up multiple scoring drives in a row that you literally hadn't stopped them yet in the entire half. So
Giving
the
them the ball
idea that
in close field goal range versus 46-yard punt.
Yeah, the 41 versus 80, them going 41 yards versus 80 is less likely, but you're still talking about a substantial amount of time there. So it was in a spot where I thought there had been enough evidence in the first 3 dives that, hey, we have to lean a bit riskier because we're going to have to outscore them. And once we started letting them get ahead by enough that it was there, you needed that double dip really badly. So to have both of those turn into punts where instead they score, you punt it back to them and hold them. You don't give up more points, which is great. Then you have another 3 and out coming out of the half and let them score again. And now you're down 17. And then you just, even though they played awesome the rest of the game on offense, 3 scores is just too much against a team that has this kind of offense.
I just think if we're playing the hindsight of, like, I get that you want to get a risky play there, but I do understand the punting in that situation of not wanting to put your defense in a riskier spot. Like 50, I think it was like 50 seconds left, about a minute left. When they punted, the 80 yards versus the 40 yards is a big difference, in my opinion, of how aggressive McVay comes
50
out.
seconds. I think at 50 seconds it is.
It was 50 seconds, and I think he ran like one pass play, didn't go, then they ran a run, and then they kind of just ran out the half from there because they were so far back, where I don't know how he attacks it if they're at the 40. I think they're definitely trying to get 3, if not more, and I didn't think the Bills defense could stop them, and that feels even worse to me if you give up a touchdown score, when trying to be risky to get the double dip, and then it goes backwards that way. And ultimately they end up going down by 17 anyway. But again, it's a tough one in hindsight. The whether or not they were going to accept the penalty one, that one's another tough one for me, because I do think there's no benefit to them kicking the field goal in that situation. Going up 6 wasn't a huge
up
benefit.
3 and up 6 wasn't a big difference with how their defense
And he's
had been
aggressive
stopping them
in those situations. So I think they probably were trying to go for that too. And again, the Bills hadn't really stopped them all that much, so they had some confidence to go for it in that situation. So again, I think that's a 50-50. And then I think in the timeout one, which is being definitely highly criticized, I don't know that there's a good answer there, because that's probably more time off the clock. Everyone's like, oh, just run up, hurry up and do it again. I think that takes more time than everyone
once you
thinks
make the initial mistake. There's not really any function to make it better, like unclogging everybody, hurrying up to run a play. Sure, you probably could have conserved it and stopped the bleeding around like 30 seconds and at least had the option of having all 3 timeouts. But then even if you score on the next play at around 30 seconds, assuming we score and that doesn't take any time. So let's assume that they can unpile everybody, line up, be set for a moment, run the play, score, and that happens at 30 seconds, and you punt it back to them. You're still talking about each play takes the 4-ish seconds. So you're talking about running each of the plays, taking the timeout. So yes, you probably could have got it back deep in their territory at like the 18-second mark with no timeouts left, 15 seconds. So it's better. It would have been better to do that. So again,
Sure.
all the things weren't slam dunks, but that final end of game scenario was compounded in mistakes because it would have been less bad in both scenarios. So one, Josh can't call that timeout. You can't do it. He's awesome. He's the greatest thing that's ever happened to our franchise. He was unbelievable today. We'll get through the history. He's the first player in NFL history to run for 3 touchdowns and pass 3 touchdowns. He's the greatest thing that's ever happened to our team. He's amazing. Yeah. Also, you have to know that you can't run the ball under any circumstance. You can't.
Yeah, you got to make a throw there.
Like you cannot allow for we're very, very good at that. We're the second best team in the league at it. We're not 100%. It's not. You have to.
They didn't get one earlier. They had to do it twice earlier. Correct.
They got stuffed already in that game, and barely got the second one when they got it. So now you're in that spot where you have to know not to do that. So that's mostly on Josh, a little bit on Brady for not reiterating it, and then a little bit on McDermott for not just screaming it to Brady to scream to Josh that, hey, you have to throw the ball here. You cannot check out. It was obviously a called pass. He lined up in the shotgun first, then he audibled and went under the center because they gave him the look to dare him to run it, I would guess. I don't know. So that's the one that I think people should be mad because it was bad. It was a dumb mistake. We hurt ourselves and we would have had a chance. We still shouldn't have been in that position because we couldn't get defensive stops, all the other things, but we would have had more of a chance.
And probably still would not have won with 18 seconds left.
Correct. Most likely. But when you get into that spot, when you have that, now you don't have to onside. You can kick it deep. Right. So now you can probably do that from the 30. You're probably talking about 18 seconds from our 30. Let's say they have a really good punt and have a 50-yard punt. That's 18 seconds with no timeouts from our 30. You at least have a shot. You need two 15-yard completions, two 20-yard completions. You have a chance. So, let's go back to a lot of the positive here because there's a ton of it. Josh Allen today, 22 of 37 for 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, 9.2 yards per attempt, no interceptions, no sacks, no fumbles. He also ran the ball 10 times for 82 yards for 3 more touchdowns. One of the most ridiculous individual performances ever. And historically, it was first player ever to have 3 passing and 3 rushing touchdowns. So they lost today, which won't really come up in this next sentence. He is a lock for the NFL MVP. Like this
Oh,
was,
100%.
everyone was watching this, and he just put up the most historic performance ever. He is the NFL MVP.
Yeah, no, and it really was more proven today than ever because I still stand by. I don't think the offense was good. I really think it was there was a couple good drives and some other guys stepped up and made plays. Shakir had a couple nice plays. Um, but the offensive line wasn't great. It was a lot of Josh doing some great things. A lot of those runs came on pressures where Josh was just escaping the pocket and doing great things. Those weren't designed runs where like Brady wasn't calling a particularly great game. He had a really nice screen call early in the game. And I don't know any of the other calls specifically where I was like, oh, wow, Brady's really in his thing today. A lot of first down unsuccessful runs where in the first half they kept pounding their face into a stout defense that wasn't giving up anything in the run game. But Josh was Josh. And to me, like that's the literal definition of MVP is the performance we saw today, where even your defense is playing poorly, coaches are coaching poorly, your team's not ready to go. You are dragging your team into a chance to win against a team that on the other side of the ball on offense is playing nearly flawless, perfect, and getting great play calling from their coach and great plays from all their players and their quarterbacks playing lights out too. And Josh almost single-handedly won this game. So yeah, even with the quarterback sneak, whoever that's on, like I've got nothing negative for Josh Allen today. If anything, I just feel for him because he put on an all-time performance. And I am again, as much as I've defended McDermott and this team and this organization, it is so frustrating to see these historical performances and in the losses. Like it's so much cooler if the Chiefs game where he had a historical performance ends in a win, where if this game, another crazy shootout with another great quarterback ends in a win, it doesn't mean as much to me for it to end in a loss. But in terms of MVP and what most valuable player truly means, Josh was on full display with the exact definition of what that means today.
So I'm going to trust that Bob is correct here. If other people can confirm this in the chat, that in the postgame presser, Josh said he did not change the call at the goal line, which means this is the horrific call by Joe Brady. Joe Brady absolutely has to know better. And again, we're talking about a game where we scored 42 points with 25 first downs and 445 yards. So, complaining about the offense is tough, but
yeah,
he
but it was
has
clunky.
to know better in that spot.
Brady didn't have a clean performance. Like he definitely benefited from Josh Allen being great today. Sure. And I think it hid a lot of unsuccessful stuff that we saw. Like, again, that decision of if you are going to punt on the 4th and 2, that play call, I didn't see anyone like, there was no quick passing concept in that play. Like you're dropping back to pass and you guys got guys running downfield when you need to pick up 2, or moving Josh in the pocket. Like there could have been a better way to get that look with the weapons that you have. And then you put yourself in a position to make a 50-50 coaching decision. Like I thought the offense operated on a very clunky manner today. And it felt more similar to a Ken Dorsey offense where Josh Allen was just being great and dragging everybody along with him.
So Eugene with a good question here, because I was about to mention the fact that we ran the ball 6 times today, and I take that. I was about to say we didn't have any called runs with Josh, but of course we did. The quarterback sneaks are called runs. Yeah. So there were 5 of those. I think it was 5 of those and then 5 scrambles. Sounds about right. We'll have to go back. I think there were 5 of the QB sneaks and the push play. So probably 11 called runs and 42 called passes. With 5 of those called passes, Josh scrambled and ran. It's about there. Maybe it ends up being 12 and 41, but it's either 11 and 42 or 12 and 41. Maybe by far the biggest disparity we've had this season.
Yeah.
And maybe the biggest disparity we've had in a couple seasons. So Eugene is saying here, the offensive performance late in the game proved what many had said for a while. Josh is at his best in the hurry up J-gun quick pass offense. I like the J-gun, like in the 2021 Daboll era, not the matriculating the ball control offense that McDermott insists on. What do you think about, the results today are great.
We've also seen
I think it's
backfire
naive. The only thing I'll push back, today is a great example. It's really hard to argue with this, Eugene. So
Sure. Yeah.
today was awesome. We also had just come off 6 straight 30-point games of matriculating the ball. So, like, the offense has been really, really good. Josh Allen, the NFL MVP by that offense. So you're talking about degrees. So I would say there's still both are very successful. And I will say I do think one helps the defense a little bit more
Yeah.
when you stay on the field.
I think having the ability to do all of the things is good, right? And
Yes. Oh,
I
for sure.
think the every NFL coach, whether it's McVay, whether it's Ben Johnson, prefers the balance, and that you need different tools. Anthony Prohaska likes to say this a lot: rock paper scissors, right? When a defense is throwing scissors, you need to be able to throw rock, right? Like there's going to be different matchups where you have to
The
be able to
Rams
do
ran
some
the
of
ball
those things.
42 times today and threw it 30. Even taking out the last drive, they ran the ball more than they passed the ball in a game where they outscored us.
Yeah, and don't get it twisted, the Bills leaned into that because they went down by multiple scores.
Correct.
And so
Correct.
they ended this wasn't the game plan going into it. They came out trying to do what they've been doing on offense. When we go through these drives, there's going to be a ton of first down and unfortunately for Greg at times second and long run plays early in this
None of
game.
which were successful.
And not it's Cook for 1 yard, Cook for 2 yards, Cook for no gain. It wasn't working, and so they had to go into this method. And it's great that you can. And I do think that there's going to be games where you need Josh to do this type of thing, and you're going to get in shootouts with teams. And it's great to see that he can still have that kind of offense. But we do also know, like I don't want to forget that when they played that style of offense, it also did go bad at times when you go through quick 3 and outs and it's not clicking and things aren't working right. And if your defense is putting up a performance like today, those kind of games can also get out of hand and get out of control on you a little bit. And if you like, this was also a really good team. I think there's a little bit of a misnomer that, and even I probably bit into it a little bit. I said this was going to hit the under at 49. Like, how dumb am I going into this game? But this was a really hard team to scout because this is a team that hasn't been healthy all season long. And going into the season, I think everybody thought if the Rams offense could be healthy with McVay and with Stafford running his offense and what those weapons are, this could be a very potent offense where you would have to get in these types of shootout games with them. I think we finally saw it first time this year on full display what they could be offensively, and this defense just didn't have an answer for it. So it's great Josh can have these kind of games where you can play the offense like that, but I don't know that that's the standard operating procedure that you want. We literally saw them, like you said, Greg, here over the past 6 weeks, bleed teams out, control the ball, and keep that defense off the field. I think that is, if you can do that type of offense into the playoffs, that is going to be what happens when the defense is having a day where they struggle. If you can have that type of offense, it does take that pressure off of them a little bit.
I do agree with Eugene on the benefit of the muddle huddle head, like hurrying up to get to the line to not let
Oh yeah.
them change. And I know as we look at the next piece, the receiving unit here, I think that there was obviously a huge impact by multiple players, but Khalil Shakir was awesome
Oh,
in
so
this
good.
game. Amari Cooper's biggest performance as a Bill. Shakir had 5 for 106 and a touchdown. Amari Cooper had 6 for 95. Mac Hollins 4 for 57 and a touchdown. Ty Johnson took that awesome screen to the house, ended up with 2 for 55 and a
Probably the
touchdown.
best play call of the day.
Yeah, really, really nice one. And as Brady pointed out, really great pass by Josh to kind of, fit it between the
Needle
linemen
that,
to
yeah.
get it over to him. And then 2 catches from Samuel, 2 from Cook, and 1 from Knox. And so I think a good distribution, especially being short Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid. So having 2 guys out and having guys like Mac Hollins, Ty Johnson, Dawson Knox contribute and chip in the way that they did is certainly encouraging to be able to help with it. But again, it's all ends up being lost in a game we lost.
Yeah. So we got a bunch of super chats coming through
Yeah,
here.
I've got a
Maybe before we
couple.
talk about the defense,
Yeah,
do
well,
we
a
have
couple
to?
of them actually fit in to where I was going to go on the defense. So the first one, Pat had for this is where I do think the Rams ran the ball 42 times. They ended up still putting up a ton of points. It didn't stop them from scoring points today. They scored 37 on offense plus the block punt. Their most points in a season. They still had 455 yards of offense. So they didn't need to go with a muddle huddle. They didn't need to go with just all passing the entire time, and they had more yards than us in a game today. And it ended up mattering because that leans right into Justin's frustration with finding a consistent pass rush has been Bean's Achilles heel. Well, guess what? When the other team keeps you on the field for 38 and a half minutes, it's really hard to have consistent explosion and pass rush because you're out there for so many plays and for such long drives. It wears at you. It's what we've done to other teams throughout this season. So I get the numbers support wanting that kind of explosive offense. The Rams were less efficient than us today, and they won because of it. They won because they were less efficient than us, because it dominated and bled us out on defense, because they matriculated the ball down the field. They won because of that, not despite it.
Yeah, and again, I don't think the Bills' offense operated particularly well. It was like a lot of this was just Josh being great. And even on that first drive where they ended up scoring, they were saved by a questionable call, really, when we get into the drives. Like that they were about to punt in that situation, and Josh sold it and got the call that you needed to stay on the field. But he was doing a lot of extra outside of the offense to get the offense going. It wasn't like Brady dialed up some great system here to get that going. But also, like, the frustrating thing about kind of examining this defensive performance here is, again, like I said, man, there was adjustments made, and then Rams had the counter to every adjustment made. Like, they were running the ball all
Some of it
over.
wasn't even adjustments. Like, there's not an adjustment to perfect coverage.
Oh my God.
That Stafford puts a perfect throw over,
Yeah.
and Puka Nacua makes an insane high point toe tap catch. Like, that's
Definitely
not an adjustment issue.
No,
It's not
no.
that, oh, why didn't you make the adjustment to stop them from doing that? Anthony here, we're only 10-3. Like, it took all the way to week 13 to clinch the division, and we've only done it 5 times in a row. We're only the second team to clinch the playoffs instead of the first. Call it a year, fire McDermott, start from scratch.
Anthony, that's my man. Yeah, that's the
like
vibe that I need right now, because it is the man. Because like I'm gonna get killed. I had a post of like, oh, the McDermott haters are really struggling this year because this is a good football team, man, and Sean McDermott is a good football coach. This is a conversation we have in text all the time about Mike Tomlin, right? Like, Mike Tomlin is a good football coach. Like, he hasn't won a Super Bowl in years, and he makes mistakes like Sean McDermott makes, and Harbaugh makes mistakes like Sean McDermott makes. But these are good, objectively good football coaches in the league, and we watch our team with a lens that is hyper focused on our team and our mistakes. But I also watch football every single week and see coaches making Sean McDermott mistakes all over the league. Kyle Shanahan coaches tight in games. I think Ben Johnson, when he gets a head coaching job, is gonna make mistakes tight. Like, this is just something that is rampant in the NFL.
We hold coaches to a standard of perfection.
Correct. And they most of the time are not. Even Andy Reid makes mistakes all the time. And it gets
if you've watched any of their frustrating games, he has had to be bailed out from some terrible decisions by usually bigger mistakes by the other coach or the other players, but some horrendous decisions we've gone through. I just want to give a shout out to Eugene here who said, Aaron, we're in agreement. The early offense is not in the Dable area. # rage donate.
I appreciate you, Eugene. We weren't trying to. Yes.
And say he wanted to be clear. He said he wanted something to be the identity is not me saying he wants it to be 100% of the time. He clarified and saying he agreed that, there is value in the time of possession and keeping them out of heavy boxes. So,
and being able to
and again,
have that,
today the offense was awesome. I do think a lot of that was Josh being a hero versus like, that's our best possible offense.
Yeah. And that's where I think, again, McVay's offense was less efficient, but I think that the way they drew it up, the plays were more successful in attacking our defense in a bit of an easier way on their team and not relying on Stafford be great. And to the comment about pressure, I was also frustrated with the lack of pressure from the defensive line early in the game. Very frustrated with the lack of anything from the interior defensive line and linebackers. Man, how many times was it Hamlin and Rapp? And
I can tell you how many. That's how many times.
It was
every time.
Yeah, and for all the people,
I don't know the number, but it was every single time the blitz got picked up because none of the blitzes ever even touched Matthew Stafford.
Well, that's a different point. I'm talking about in the run game early in the game. It was constantly safeties making the tackles in the run game early in the game. We didn't see linebackers making tackles. It was Hamlin, Rapp, Benford, Taron Johnson down the field coming up. What I will say, man, there was some pressure that got to Stafford, but he was honestly, there's been few times where I've seen him play that
Some
clean and
Brady era
composed.
pocket manipulation
He
stuff.
was on his game when it came to stepping away from pressure. Von Miller probably had like 3 or 4 that I thought were going to be sacks, and Stafford just stepped in and around it and was smooth and composed all day long. So even when they did get some pressures on him,
Von saw that false start too here. Lord Korvac saying, appreciate your compliment here, but the Fire McDermott crowd needs to help. That missed false start was frustrating because that was also on that time where it's all the hindsight stuff. If they call that and it's 4th and 10, I do think
that's different.
I do think they kick like 4th and 10. I think they kick there and they miss that. And all of a sudden now we're down 6 with getting the ball back. And I think we go down to score. Yeah, we did go down to score.
That was a tough one to swallow. And I hate it. The refs were, I think
we got a couple calls that were horrendous that I would have been furious with.
It was really both ways though. They were incompetent both ways all day.
Ticky-tack, like not fabricated, but ticky-tack both directions. Some really crappy calls.
But yeah, no, in terms of that getting pressure is frustrating. You're not getting enough of it. And mostly, again, my defense of the safety play this year has been annoying. But everyone talks about that being the number one biggest weakness on this defense. And there's still some weakness and flaw there. But to me, man, the interior of this defensive line, and this is crazy because when we did the shows of the position previews, I think both of us were in agreement that this was like a deep strength of this team, and it hasn't rendered that way. I've defended Ed Oliver a ton in that, like, he was injured early on. There's not a lot of defense there for him right now. He's been getting washed in the run game, and the pressures just haven't been there. Daquan Jones had a couple nice stuffs today, but then he gets pushed out of the way for some of the bigger runs. It's really feast or famine in there on the interior defensive line, but the pressures aren't being generated there. And even guys like Groot, who has been on fire lately, I don't remember like a group play today really that I can
almost none. I was begging for it. Is that Padden? So long. Thanks for all the fish. Appreciate you. Lars here. I don't think I've ever seen offsetting PI before. I haven't. I haven't ever seen.
Hamlin got bailed out there.
That was a horrendous bailout call. That was like a 40-yard play down the field.
I do think it was
forever.
What the problem with that play though is I've yelled at this for years that is offensive pass interference. Like he got stiff arm.
It's a stiff arm. Yeah, he didn't push off, but he did post up with an arm.
Hamlin got beat straight up. I'm not gonna say
Hamlin for sure was grabbing, and he did.
And it was both ways, and so like I understood the call, but I've never seen it called.
I've never seen it called ever.
And while we're kind of like talking about the defense and issues, the defensive line was definitely a big one, and I have bigger concerns about that going forward than some of the other issues that I saw. This was Rasul Douglas's worst game as a Buffalo Bill.
Oh, yeah.
By a lot.
I had an intrusive thought during the game. There was a play. I think it was a 2-2 Atwell crosser, maybe. There was a play where, as I watched Rasul Douglas have a decent amount of space in front of him as he chased, I think it was 2-2. It wasn't. It stuck out because it wasn't Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. I'll give just about anybody a pass.
Whatever you can.
I'll give anybody a pass on covering 2 All-Pro receivers like that. Nobody looks great. It was 2-2 Atwell, and as he was going across chasing, and somebody else had to make the tackle, I won't lie, I had the intrusive thought of like, maybe we don't need to re-sign him.
I don't want to get caught up in the moment.
That way. Yeah. I'm not saying that's my actual strategic feelings. I'm admitting to an intrusive thought that as I saw that, I was like, maybe
luckily they won't be able to anyway for your intrusive thought. There you go. I don't think that's going to be able to happen, but no, it wasn't his best game. And honestly, a guy that I love so much, Taron Johnson, did not have a particularly great game in this one either. Again, they put a lot of stress on you in a lot of different ways, covering the 2 All-Pros and how they shift those guys around and move them around. And their physicality is probably a difficult thing for the Bills. Benford made a number of plays, but there was that big third down that went to 2-2 Atwell where he had like 5 yards of separation on Benford, who's our best cover guy. Like, so everybody
was overall very good today, but he hadn't been exposed ever Also, like, I
Correct.
don't know that he had one like overtly negative play all season. Like, I'm not. That's not hyperbole. Like, I genuinely don't recall an overtly negative play. And seeing him just straight up get beat a couple times today, not a ton, but a couple, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, we haven't seen that all season. Like,
Yeah.
he's been
It
so
was just
good.
that kind of day, man.
And shout out to him that his bar is so high
Yeah.
that just like seeing him get beat ever was like a shocking thing. But
Not
like,
mad at him.
oh, he got beat 2 or 3 times. We haven't seen that all season. That was
Yeah. And it just felt
pretty
like that
shocking.
kind of day on defense where, like, again, Vaughn got pressures, couldn't close sacks, right? Guys made good, like, a couple of those catches by Nakua. That was good coverage by Benford and just not good enough.
Yeah.
Like, the other guy made a better play, and it just seemed to be that way all day. And just frustrating. And it's going to be really depressing for me tomorrow, Greg, because that's the first thing I do is my habit for breaking down the game is to jump into the defense because everyone's going to go look at the offense. And I'm just going to, I hope it's raining tomorrow because that's
You're going to see a lot of Taylor Rapp and Zamar Hamlin because they had 13 tackles each. Never good
Oh
when
my
when your safeties have 26 tackles, 15 solo tackles from the safety group, 26 total tackles. Never good.
It could have probably
As
been a lot worse if they weren't. Like
Yeah,
that was a lot of
sure.
points saved
We actually
tackles.
didn't give up a ton, like the Demarcus Robinson one. We actually didn't have a ton of explosive plays. It was
No,
just
it was
a ton
4
of
outside
chunks, like
of
a ton of 10 to 21. We actually had two. Nakua had a 21. Atwell had a 21.
Cup had a
Cooper had the long
38.
one.
And then
So
Cup had a 24 and a 30, and then the blocked punt was there.
yeah, correct. Obviously, a huge one. As Justin said here, is going to get me even more mad. Another reason that maybe we shouldn't have accepted the penalty is strategically, you are giving them another play to run a play when you're trying to get the ball back. So that, like, even though I think that's a small one in the factor when you're doing your calculus of what is the percent benefit, there is a benefit of, hey, don't give them another play to run 40 seconds off the clock, even if you do get a stop. That there was reason to just decline the penalty and sit there and dare them to go for it on 4th and 9.
Sure.
Is that one, it's easier just to get a stop on 4th and 9 than 4th and 5. Obviously, you're hoping for a stop on 3rd and 19 anyways. But regardless, part of that calculus, like a little piece of that equation in the decision making, is that's another snap and another 40 seconds off the clock when you're trying to get the ball back. So it's just another small factor in that, like, hey, we probably should have declined that. Again, I'm not. There are things to bash them on. The play call and the timeout usage, go ahead, bash away. That is just over. There's no debate to either of those. Those are just mistakes. The decline the penalty or not, 3rd and 19 out of field goal position is a defendable decision. Like that, smart people will say, hey, you should decline that. You should take the penalty and put them out of field goal position. That is a defendable position. It didn't work out, but that one, I'm not going to just pile on for them.
Yeah. Actually, as we jump into special teams here, our friends at Lefturn had a fantastic tweet, which is not getting enough burn and recognition on Twitter right now. He put the GIF of Homelander smiling in the crowd. You know that one where he's like, like they don't realize that I'm the psychopath here. It says Smiley watching the timeline blame the loss on a 4th and 6 that turned into a 4th and 5. While Smiley is probably like, it's not good. This special teams has gotten consistently worse since he's been here. And it actually was a strength of this organization 3 years ago. And I don't know what the defense is of him. I don't know if it's just that Sean McDermott likes him and he's loyal to Sean McDermott or whatever's going on behind the scenes. This game, DVOA wise, which is something I love, the last 2 weeks have been the only 2 weeks where DVOA favored the Bills in special teams. And I think the Bills got beat by the other team's special teams in both games. This wasn't just that block punt either, Greg. The block punt was terrible and probably ended up making all the difference in this football game. Getting that possession.
Game, a block punt for a touchdown is pretty big.
And that's your double dip right there. They stole a possession out of you and got a point, and that's how you let a team that's probably not better than you win a game. But then I haven't done the splits of where every Bills drive started versus where every Rams drive started, but it felt like the Bills did not do a good job on returns on both sides. And that stuff also adds up in a 2-point game where your defense can't get a stop. You're giving them shorter fields and you're taking longer fields. That's not a good way. And you're losing time of possession. Like all that adds up to what we saw.
Almost every drive was 70, 71, 91, 70, 70, 80, 76. 76, 70, 65, 70. So they are going to have marginally better field position just because they almost never took a kick out of the
Right.
end zone. They just took it at the 30 over and over again. And we had a handful that we had to go a bit. They had two that went 76. Actually, we had a bunch that went 80 and 91. So they're going to technically have better, but neither team had like outstanding
No.
field position. But we were, like you said, two below average special teams units, and we were worse. They were less bad than ours, and they had an awesome punt block, which they very strategic. That wasn't just like one guy getting blown up. Like that was a strategy.
It was a good play.
They went after it and had a really good setup for it.
Yeah.
And you cannot, as Ron said here, you can't have that. It's just not feasible.
Have it.
So again, on the defensive side of the ball, nobody was good because they went up and down the field. So I'm not going to try to sugarcoat any of these. I do like that. I guess the defensive ends did adjust on that jet sweep stuff. They blew up two of them
after like 9 of them.
Correct. Eventually they adjusted, and Vaughn and Epinesa, I guess in a clutch moment is what I meant, is like, hey,
Yes,
in a big moment where they needed to, they both blew one up and finally had an adjustment legitimately after getting beat 6 times on it.
Yeah.
Cam Lewis came in and made some plays. I thought Jamarcus Ingram did a nice job. He came in and didn't get like disgustingly picked on, having to come in for Rasul Douglas. I don't know if anybody in the chat. He got put in a tough
spot on that conversion where he's in man coverage on an all-pro.
And was in good position. Not like he got roasted.
No, that's a tough spot to be in. It's the defense, like, they almost resurrected a terrible game because they did get a stop when you needed a stop. Like I was praying, like, finally, please, can you do it? And they did force a 3 and out when you absolutely needed to get this game back. And they got so close to forcing another turnover and just could not do it. And it really was the difference of just a couple plays in the second half. I do feel like they made some adjustments in the second half, but it just wasn't enough. And McVay just had the answer almost every time.
And like you said, Ed Oliver did have 2 quarterback hits. He had a pressure on a third down that led to the one 3 and out that we did get. So it wasn't completely zero, but we just got no discernible pressure on him. And we even did come out of some of the zone stuff and start to send more pressure. And Kyron Williams and I think some Kobe Parkinson, their blitz pickup was crazy. Just over and over, just taking that punch right to the mouth over and over and over and just stepping up. And, Bernard was coming hard. Milano was coming hard. We sent Rapp on one. We sent Hamlin on one. And we did not get home on a blitz one time.
The only successful one was on where they held him. Yeah, go ahead.
The only people who got a documented quarterback hit were Quentin Jefferson and the 2 at Oliver.
Yeah.
What was the one that was was it penalty call?
I was going to say the 3rd and goal on the second drive where we held them to 3, which is totally lost in actually holding on that drive. I think in this game, they did send a 0 blitz on that 3rd and goal. And it was the one where DeMar got in. He didn't touch him, but he got in enough to make Stafford adjust a bad throw to Nakua. And it led to a field goal, which
that's getting home on a blitz.
Yes. And it would have been great if we didn't have a block punt on the next drive. A play like that would have, you were getting pushed up and down the field. You finally get a blitz home to stop and cause a pressure, but obviously it still spirals out on you later. Not doing the defense any favors for the only 3 of the positive things you did for the day.
There you go. Okay, somebody trying to grasp for something positive. Tyler Bass not only was 6 of 6, he was 6 of 6. The one was a 48-yard extra point because of Deion Dawkins' personal foul. And all 6 of his were good. I don't think I felt there was maybe one that was a little close to the upright, but most of them were dead center, nice, clean kick. So good operation, good job with all of those. Again, we know he's
doesn't look as bad,
perfect, but the rest of the league is
not a good year this year, Greg. There's got to be a case study in
Justin Tucker is now completely yips, total yips.
Who 2 years
Evan
ago,
McPherson, who was lights out.
Yeah.
Now he's completely out of his mind.
And how many block kicks to end games? We saw another one today in the Saints game. Something's going on with kickers. I don't know what's up.
Yeah, Giants got one blocked here. Lawrence is sad tone. Go Bills on the Mr. Brightside. We are division champions in the playoffs. There's
a way bigger perspective
scheme of things. this game didn't actually matter that much. Now, again, if the Chiefs lose tonight to the Chargers, yes, we're all going to be frustrated and annoyed that we could have taken the 1 seed, but whatever. It's these things. If our entire plan was, but I was only excited because I thought we were going to win every single game the rest of the way, all the way through the Super Bowl. It's not normally how the NFL works. Like, I don't mind getting punched in the mouth in an embarrassing way. This was embarrassing, like from a defensive perspective, not the offense.
Right.
The defense was embarrassed tonight. I don't mind that. I don't mind getting embarrassed right now where it didn't have all that many consequences in the grand scheme of things.
This is the game to lose, right?
Yeah, like I don't mind that piece of it. So again, I'm really frustrated. We should have won this game. It would have been awesome.
Yes.
It would have been a really cool moment to have for Josh setting some of the records that he did. But
and winning all the games is better than not winning all the games.
Right. I'm a much bigger fan of winning all the games than losing any of the games. That is my favorite.
But honestly, I do think this team needed a little bit of a gut punch. I think they're in for another punch in the mouth next week too. And we knew this was going to be a tough stretch of teams that match up really difficult for the Bills. But if you're going to lose a couple games or drop a couple games, it's NFC teams when you've already clinched the division and you've got a ticket to the playoffs. And Rasul Douglas did get hurt, but outside of that, did we see anyone, before we go into it, it seems like relatively getting out of this healthy, maybe?
And I obviously back ribs, you never know, but I don't think that's a long-term thing for Rasul. So even if he misses a week or two here, I don't think that's a long-term thing.
They say back rib, because I heard on the broadcast knee.
They said, for Douglas?
Yeah, that was what Brady said but Brady's not a great.
No. Hanlon said back.
Okay.
Brady, I don't know what Brady said because I zone him out.
Matt R saying they said knee. Yeah, I thought they said knee.
Okay. No, that might have been when he tried to come back in.
He came back in, played a series, and then went back out, and they said he was doubtful to return with a knee, which I don't love.
I don't love that. Correct.
No.
Correct. Do not love. Shout out. So I just put together. It's Bills fan Bruce Smith, Andre Reed, 77883, which I love the screen name. And here he's yelling at the rest of the chat, which I have the chat closed because I get mad if I read it during the show. Let it rest on you, good Lord. It took a special teams touchdown and 44 points from a Super Bowl winning offense to beat us. It's a loss. We're still good. Some of you are insufferable, good Lord. I appreciate you yelling at them for us. That means a lot.
Yeah.
All right. So our good friends, Bradley and the rest of the team over at West Her, graciously sponsor us to go through the West Her drive of the game and the drive-by-drive series here. I may not do every single play in the same way that I normally do. Obviously, we started out
over all the defensive.
Yeah, we'll just skip all the. Hey, on the opening one, they went 12 plays, 70 yards, and a touchdown. But one theme you will see is it was 6 minutes and 34 seconds. So the first drive, I think, as much as any of them, there were a couple later on where there might have been a couple drives where I don't know if they saw a third down. Where they were just clipping. On that first drive, we were so close to getting off the field multiple times. And I was like, oh, God. All right. Like it was kind of reassuring because I was like, all right, that was such a weird fluky drive. Like
we're going to make a play.
Yeah. They had to convert so many third downs in that drive that we're going to be fine. We're going to make some plays. We'll tighten up later on. We didn't, sneak preview, spoiler alert, we did not tighten up later on, but I told myself that in the first drive because they had so many weird conversions. But then the Bills got it back and they went again similar. You'll see a trend here, also went 70 yards but 3 plays fewer, a minute and a half faster, and we went right down the field and ended up with getting down there with again a couple penalties involved, but nice play to Ty Johnson where he was a shoestring away from breaking a touchdown of his own. A really nice break from Khalil Shakir, another nice play from Mac Hollins, going 16, 16 to 14, 3 straight plays where we were taking chunks down the field. And then the first one, they got converted with a Josh Allen push. But again, that was a good example for later in the game. It took 2 tries. Josh got stuffed on the first one, and then we had to go again. And, I wish that seed had been planted in the back of their mind later on.
Yeah. One of the plays I really loved and I had highlighted on this was a 1st and 10 to the one to Hollins for 16 yards. I love this play. This is Josh being a point guard. He rolls out and puts that type of stress on the defense where they've got to make decisions. And you can see him just patiently waiting for them to make a decision of like, hey, I'm going to run, I'm going to run, I'm going to run. And then they finally pull up and Hollins is wide open for 16 yards. Like that to me is just a point guard running the offense outside of the offense itself. And that he's become so good at that where it used to be just he's rolling out and he's going to run. And now he's just patiently waiting on it to happen. And that was a great play. And yeah, Hollins coming through with another nice sneaky game and being that type of outlet for Josh in that situation. But this was probably not the best drive of the game, but in terms of play calling, was pretty clean play call for Brady here on this one.
Yeah, I thought started out with a good script and good setup for it. Obviously,
although bailed out on the 3rd and 9 flag for the roughing. That should it really probably should have been a 3 and out to start this game.
Yeah, it's very fair. Like honestly, that was Josh for
I'd
sure
be
sold it.
mad if that
Furious.
call went the other way.
Furious. Yeah. If Stafford sold it like that and we gave up a 3rd down conversion, I would be livid.
Yes.
I'm just like, I get why I defend everything that Josh does. When other fan bases get mad about him flopping and selling calls, like I just kind of shrug my shoulders and say, yeah, sorry, he does. Like he does. I don't try to deny it or pretend that he doesn't, but I get why people get mad because he does every single time. But we get so many of the calls that like I don't want him to stop doing it. Like I'm not upset by it at all. I get why someone else would be upset by it if you're a fan.
What I was most upset by is
Brady
like calling Josh out on that play.
Oh my God.
Dude, like, come on, dude. You were
like, you do that for 20 years.
Yeah, get out of here.
I will say, I genuinely did start ignoring Brady. He had so many like subtle little insecure jabs during the call. Like, well, Josh didn't see this one. Well, I would have seen. Did you? He didn't notice this read over here. He was just a little step late when you're sliding left and making that throw. It is going to float on you a little bit. Like he had every single time finding something to nip. And eventually, towards the end, he stopped because Josh was making so many amazing plays.
Yeah.
But like he was trying so hard to like slide in little things. Like, well, I noticed this. I get it that Josh didn't notice, but I noticed that this was available. He had so many of those in there. It was really gnawing at me, and I just had to try to zone him out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you said, the second Rams drive, again, pretty frustrating. They get down the field pretty quickly. 24 to Cup, 13 to Atwell, a couple nice runs from Corum. He ran for 11, 7, 6, boom, 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 right down the field. And then we actually did step up and make a play. Ed Oliver blew up a play in the backfield for Corum early on. Then Epinesa and Ed again made a nice stop, and we finally got it to 3rd and goal. And we just had the incompletion there, and it felt like, all right, we held, and they kicked on 4th and 3. And again, that's a nugget that I think we needed to put away. That like McVay is an aggressive coach, but he also kicked on the 3-yard line, in a spot where you easily could have gone. It's earlier, it's different circumstance, different factors in play, but again, a little nugget that like I wish we would have kind of tucked away. And then here, what ended up being a field, a game tilting situation, we come out, we hit a crazy back shoulder to Amari Cooper right off the bat. Then try to hit him again deep, and then the 2nd and 10 play call really frustrated me here. Tried to go again to Hollins, had a shot at it, just wasn't able to connect. And then we, it's deep shot on 3 straight plays, where this one I think is the biggest gripe with Brady is this is where we need him to be able. Of course, Josh is going to take those shot plays. Like he loves taking shot plays. You have to help him out a little bit here. And we end up just going deep shot. And then, of course they didn't know that it was going to get blocked and returned for a touchdown, and poor Reed blew up in this situation. And, they end up taking it back in what ends up being a huge play in the game. But it was set up that way. Like we were in midfield. It was frustrating that we couldn't get a bit more, play design to help Josh out and to take a little off his shoulders.
Yeah, it's tough because that 2nd and 10 was definitely there, and Josh
Yeah,
was just a
yeah.
fraction late and a little too much, and Cam Kitchens made a great play on the ball. Like, I don't wanna
Yes,
take away
yes.
what Cam Kitchens did on that play as safety. Came over, made a really nice play on that ball. That's a
And
tough
in fairness, if Josh doesn't put that much heat on the ball, Kitchens might come and intercept it or make a
maybe.
bigger play on it.
Yeah.
He was only barely able to break it up because it had enough on it.
Yeah, yeah, but you gotta just live to be like, "Okay, we missed the deep shot." We took 2. I think the first intending completion was also kind of a deep shot, not
Yes.
as deep of a shot, but down the field, pushing the ball vertically, and you can't do it 3 times in a row, like, especially when your defense has just been pushed up and down the field multiple
Heck,
times.
that
This is
first
the
down play, you just hit the back shoulder to
Yeah,
Cooper. That's a perfect time for like a 8-yard comeback. Like let him press
or the
him, think you're
screenplay.
going to it again,
Yeah,
and just come right back. And like we used to do that with John Brown all the time.
yeah,
Right after you hit him deep, you get like a free 8 to 10 yards because they're petrified of getting beat deep again. Just take the free 8-yard comeback where they're afraid of going deep. They would have given it to you, and you
yeah.
would have set up 2nd and 2 at like the Rams 44.
Yeah, and this is a team that's not great, like, defending the screen so far this year on
Yeah.
defense, so, like, go to that. I don't know. I was very frustrated of another you just missed on you had your deep shot, don't go to that well continuously. You had it, you missed it, you gotta just throw that away for now and go back to it later. Again, plain hindsight because you don't expect the punt to come out and get blocked, but that play is one that I'm just not going to be able to sleep on tonight. And we can talk about all those coaching decisions and all the other things today, but ultimately the difference in this game is instead of punting deep and hoping that you can maybe get another stop or hold them to 3, you just give it to them easy and they scoop and score. And that's I don't know many teams that can overcome blocked punt scores like that to win a game. And the
I know
Bills
somebody
did
put up
their
a
best.
stat. Somebody said it was 90%. I don't know if that's true, but it feels true, so I'm
It
gonna
feels
believe it.
true. Yeah.
It feels true that if you block a punt and return it for a score, you win 90% of those games. It feels true, so I'm gonna believe it. We do come right back and answer because they did most of this game. So this one was a quick one, 4 plays, 70 yards. We hit the one to Hollins for 12, and then another nice play to Cooper, and then that Ty Johnson screen, which
Oh,
was a gorgeous play call. You knew they were going to bring some pressure right into it. Josh threads the needle through the open space, and then Ty Johnson, really, really nice run, makes up for the fact that he would have got a touchdown earlier with the shoestring
mhm.
tackle, and he actually gets it on this one. But just like every other time, the Rams come back, and this might have been the worst one per se. 12 plays, 76 yards, 7 minutes and 47 seconds off the clock.
Wow.
Um, their worst starting field position of the game, and just right down the field. They actually get 14 yards. It gets called back on a penalty, so they're at 1st and 19. They start chunking away there. Then we get the penalty on Taryn on Robinson for interference, and they just start moving their way down the field, and we just continually give up. This is where the crazy toe tap one came into play, where um,
Just
Puka
unbelievable catch.
converts and makes an amazing catch, and just
At first, I
continues
thought
their
there's
way
no
down the
way he
field.
kept his feet in bounds, and then you
Yeah,
saw that, and it's like, "Holy cow! How did he?
yeah.
How?" Like, I
It
can't
was
even
on.
hate it. It was just like a perfect play. Like, I want to
I
be
was
mad at it.
ready out. I was like almost saying out loud, "All right, we're going to challenge this. We got to like. There's no way that was a catch." And then they showed. I'm like, "Oh my god, he
Yeah.
caught
He
that!
even ran
Holy
up
crap!"
quick, and then I think realized
Yes.
like, "Oh, yeah, no, we can just take our
Yeah.
time." That was
Never
definitely a
mind. We can
catch.
take our time. That was an awesome catch.
Yeah.
We're good. Yeah, that was frustrating.
The most
Um,
frustrating thing on this drive to me, Greg, is that obviously we talked about it already. Those jet sweep plays that they were running here, and they ran it, but they took a timeout on the 1st and goal, and they ran it. It would have been a touchdown, like they said,
yes.
like that was going for touchdown. But then they came out on 1st and goal after the timeout and just ran it to the other side and
I don't know that
scored.
I've ever seen the short motion into a reverse
Sure,
jet sweep, like where
no,
he comes across, stops, like didn't even get to the tight end, stopped at the tackle, pivoted back, and didn't even do. So it wasn't even like it wasn't a motion jet sweep where a
no,
lot of times you could try to get the guy going. Like he stopped and came back during the play. It's just like Sean McVay is awesome. He's just
he's a really
really.
good
I've
guy.
never seen that ever. It was such a great play call.
Yeah.
And the same thing, we'll get to the bubble screen later on, which was an awesome answer. Of course, when you have two guys as physical as Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, what an awesome play call to go to on a zero blitz. But just Sean McVay's great. He's really, really good.
Yeah.
And when you have Stafford in his bag, that's what happens. So here we come back. You tweeted it. We now get the ball back. 2 minutes and 36 seconds. We're down 10. This is the prime spot for a double dip. Like, this is when you need it. You need the double dip here. You're down 10 points. You can come back and be up 4 if you get 2 touchdowns, but you just get 2 scores. You either cut it to 24-20, worst case, or you tie the game because you get a touchdown, a field goal between the two. Great situation. We get the ball back, 2 minutes, 36 seconds. We're going to get the ball coming out of the half. Okay, we can get right here. And it starts out nice. We get the 8 yards. We're deep, so I don't hate not getting a play in there. But again, they made some of these decisions based on a normal game rubric of decision making, and this wasn't a normal game. So you knew you needed to hurry up. Like, there was no scenario where we could afford to punt back. So, like, when you're deep in your territory, you make those decisions like, well, we can't afford it. We got to make sure we might need to run the clock out. Like, that wasn't an option here. You're down 10. You needed to score. The fact that they just let the 25 seconds run off the clock to go to the 2 minute, I was like, all right, I get it. You're only at the 26, so it's not ideal, but it's also 2nd and 2. You're going to convert here on 2nd and 2. So I didn't love that. But they then go to Cooper. They get 7. They convert. We get an incompletion. We go to Hollins for 8. So we're at 3rd and 2. And then on 3rd and 2, we're at our own 41. There's still a minute 6 left. A lot of time left. We got timeouts. We take a deep shot. And that's the one you should be mad at. So I get it. On 4th and 2, we're going to talk about in a second here. But 3rd and 2.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Like,
there's nothing short under. I'll watch it back, but it did not look like they were playing to keep the drive alive and convert. And you have to be in that situation. Like, the time to take the deep shot is after you've converted. Yes. And then you have 56 seconds. You're at the 3rd and 2. You're at like a minute and 16. You still have timeouts. Yeah. You're sure. Maybe you're not rushing to get these plays in, but you're at a minute and 16. That's plenty of time with the timeouts that you have and the players that you have to go down the field. And even all you really need to get this double dip going is 3. Like, obviously we always want to end it in 6, but man, that is what ticked me off, is like, again, we're playing the hindsight of the decision on the 4th and 2 when the 3rd and 2 is what set you up into forcing you to make a stupid decision.
Heck, run the ball. I'm fine with a run on 3rd and 2, because if you only get a yard, then I'm okay doing the quarterback sneak to
or
go for it on 4th and 1.
Josh out and make him.
Yes. How many times did I have to watch McVay give Stafford that freaking trips flood route with the sail route over and over, with like, hey, low, middle, and high, make the guys make choices over and over and over. Like, can we have one of those? Like, that's a perfect play for that. Bootleg Josh into that flood route, let him make a choice or keep the ball and run. Like, I don't even care if they know that that's coming. Like, I'll take one of those 4 options, 3 guys out in the pattern and Josh rolling out. I'll take my chances.
There's just a lack of that situational awareness there.
Instead, we take a deep shot, and then still on 4th and 2, where we have not stopped them yet. Literally, they have scored every single time, and the only time they got a field goal, it felt kind of fortunate that it wasn't worse. We punt the ball. It's 4th and 2 at the 41. Again, this is a coin flip decision, even by most of the machines. They obviously said to go for it, but it was a small one. It wasn't a slam dunk. But again, it's not a slam dunk in every game scenario. It's not a slam dunk against the Raiders. It's not a slam dunk against the Patriots. It's not a slam dunk against the Panthers. In a game where you haven't gotten a stop yet, and like, hey, we got to keep up here. This is a critical double dip situation. I think that risk simply becomes tolerable, acceptable risk. You have to take that chance that you need to keep that drive going to, like you said, at least get a field goal here. So again, it's not the insane fireable offense that people want to make it out to be. It was not a horrendous decision. I thought it was a risk, and acknowledging it was a risk they needed to take in that moment.
Yeah, I don't agree. Again, probably would have been fine. I definitely would have been fine if they went for it and got it and kept the drive alive.
I love
And
every time they go for it and get it.
yeah, and
Those
you
are all my
need,
favorites.
yeah, you need the. I agree. You need to probably steal something in this game because you gave up that punt, and so you weren't getting the turnovers. It's hard to say how the rest of the game is going to go. And that I think you believe you're going to lock some stuff up and make a stop and be able to score later. And I think if you put your team, if you don't get it, say Josh does something silly with the ball or takes a sack or it just goes incomplete and they get the ball there with 56 seconds left. Again, I think they are playing it differently than they do on the punt where they go screen, incomplete pass, and then they just kind of rush out or they get a first down. And then they run out the clock on a
No,
first and
I think they made the decision that, hey, if we punt the ball here, they're just going to pack it in and go into halftime. Like, I think he correctly calculated that.
yeah.
My frustration is that wasn't good enough.
Sure.
Like, you needed points.
Yeah.
You needed points here.
Yeah.
You have a chance to get points plus the coming possession. I think he made the right. His decision was proven correct. Like the result he expected to get is what he got. I needed for him to not want that result.
Yeah. Real quick here before we get into the second half, I got to call Alex out here. Alex Blake saying, I can't wait to hear about DVOA and other advanced metrics. That's he's for sure calling me out directly. So I'm going to let him know. I have not defended this defense. Like I said, they made some adjustments and they got counter adjusted. They didn't do a good job today. There's going to be no metrics that say that this was a good performance for the defense. That doesn't take away 14 weeks, 13 games of playing pretty good defense, or 12 weeks of playing pretty good defense for the
I'm
most
really
part.
happy the other teams we play won't have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and
Yeah,
John McVay.
like I get it. I'm annoying with the metrics and stuff, and there is some perception versus reality of how they have played versus what they look like, and they got punched in the face today. It's gonna happen. There's every team. I mean, the metrics have all said Kansas City's got a really good defense over the last 4 weeks. Kansas City defense has not been good. Like there's ebbs and flows to this stuff. So Alex, I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you watching, but I'm not going to defend the defense all week here. And if anything, if you follow me on Twitter tomorrow, you're going to see a lot of bad cut-ups of this defense going into the week because it wasn't good. So I want you to know that there's no defense.
We just destroyed the San Francisco 49ers last week and held them to 10 points. They put up 38 this week. It's a week-to-week league. Sometimes this stuff happens.
Yeah.
So, again, they got the result that they expected. They punted the ball. They got them to kind of take the air out of it and just let the clock run out. They did get one first down and ran the clock out. So, okay, we're going to halftime. We're down 10, but don't worry. We get the ball back to start the half, so we got a chance here. It's not going to be a double dip, but we can still get a score. And instead, we have an incompletion. The way it was broken up on the play, Samuel didn't make the catch. Then shockingly, we ran the ball on 2nd and 10. We got 3 yards. Super helpful that we got 3 yards on that 2nd and 10. And then we took a deep shot because it was 3rd and 7 because it's harder to convert because you just ran the ball on 2nd and long.
Yeah, this was the one that Shakir was wide open in the middle of the field too, where I can't tell you that it was going to go for a touchdown, but the way he ran on the other
another one coming up here.
I have a hard time thinking every time he gets the ball, it couldn't go for a touchdown.
Yeah, it was at minimum going to be a 40-yard play, and maybe one of the safeties gets an angle that he gets him down, but he had a head of steam, and it would have been an awesome play from Cam Kitchens, who is not super fast. I think Khalil Shakir scores on that play if he's able to get it connected and hits it, and Josh misses him. He just misses. And that was one where, again, I got annoyed with Brady, but he was probably right in the way that he was moving in the pocket and didn't quite step into it in the right way. He didn't connect. And Sam Martin has a nice punt. It's 4th and 7 at our own 29. That's not even a debatable play. You have to punt in that, regardless of how the defense is playing. You can't go for it on 4th and 7 at your own 29. So we punt the ball back to them. And this is where the low point of the game. They go 11 plays, 76 yards, 5.5 more minutes off the clock. One of them, even
you
with
got him
that,
into a 3rd and 10. It was good. It should have been a 3 and out. You got 3rd and 10, and Puka just mossed Taron Johnson.
Just wanted to play. Like Taron was in pretty good position. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't bad coverage. Just Puka Nacua is bigger and stronger and
And a
went
good
up and got
throw.
the ball.
Yep.
Then on the first down play after the Puka Nacua conversion, you get the crazy 56-yard bomb to Demarcus Robinson, which the Rams then get completely screwed
Yeah.
in an offsetting interference that brings it all the way back to their own 37, negating a play that put it down to our 7-yard line. And it didn't matter. They still drove all the way down the field. We get him to 2nd and 10 on a stuff to Kyron Williams, but then he checks it down for 4. We get him to 3rd and 6. Nacua goes up and converts, beats Rasul Douglas on a play that Douglas did interfere with him. He grabbed him around the waist, just trying to grab at him, got beat. Then they go down again. This time, now they hit Cooper Kupp with that 37-yarder, one of the biggest ones again. Rasul Douglas has interference, and it doesn't matter. Kupp catches it anyways. That one was on the seam route, just straight down the numbers. They then run the ball 3 straight plays, 3, 4, 7, boom, in the end zone. And that's easily the low point here in the game. There's 8 minutes left. We're down 17. Any football fan that's watching knows the math. Even if you do 2 scores and 2 extra points, you're still down 1. You're down 3 possessions at that point, and there's 8 minutes left. And every time they get the ball, it's 5, 6, 7 minutes off the clock. And I will say, if you told me at that point we were going to get back to the point where we're arguing about
final second decisions,
final seconds, taking timeouts, onside kicks, trying to play the clock game, I would have called you a liar. So from that point on, like it's awesome that we got it back to where that was the case. But that was the culmination of the block punt back for the touchdown, and then the failure on the 2 possessions we have to punt on the double dip opportunity. We dug too deep of a hole, even for this heroic offense.
Yeah, and I will say, like, outside of all the blunders in this game, this team, like, it would have been easy for a team to pack it in at this point and just, hey, it was a crappy trip out west. We're taking the loss, no big deal. We'll get them next week. And they did not from here. Like, I lost a lot of interest. My notes got a little less. Then they picked back up again here. My tweets got a little less, like, at this point in the game. But the Bills never gave up. Even the defense, who was getting worked in this game, it would have been easy for them to come out and make business decisions and not try as hard as they could in this game. But even them getting worked consistently up and down the field, I don't think it was due to a lack of effort or trying or wanting to get it right and make plays. They just it wasn't their day on that side of the ball. But Josh sort of went nuclear from this point on in the game because again, I had tweeted out up to this point, even with scoring and matching some points, it felt clunky. Like, it didn't feel good. And then the offense started to kind of get their groove and click from this point
on. So I do have this as my West Herr drive of the game. So the Bills go on a 6-play, 80-yard drive, 4 minutes and 32 seconds. That wasn't easy. We get to where it's a
first and 30 at one point.
Try to do an end around, get it to then a quick check down, then make a tackle on. It's 3rd and 9, and hit Amari Cooper on an awesome play. This is the one that I think, like, they didn't really understand how it even went through, how it got to Cooper.
Yeah.
And then, so our 1st and 10, we then get a penalty. It takes it to 1st and 15. We negate an awesome Ty Johnson run on. I'm not going to even be mad at Spencer Brown, because this is just, he's reaching to try to block and accidentally snags the guy's face mask. Like, this is in play penalties here. It's not anything to be mad at, but it sets us back at 1st and 30. And then we get a couple yards for Cooper for 5. Then Josh has an awesome scramble where he actually probably could have hit Ray Davis. Ray Davis beat his guy, and he kind of went to, I don't know if he didn't see it, but he kept the ball and ran for 17 yards. Yeah. Now we're all the way back from 1st and 30 to 3rd and 8. Okay, we got a shot here. And he hits Khalil Shakir. And I know, I think I want to credit our guy, Bruce Nolan. I think he was the first one that really started talking about the Pinball Wizard nickname that was out there. I don't know that there's been any play all season that was more Pinball Wizard than hit. Like, he splits it, he gets hit, he spins around. I think he might have been backwards as he scored. Khalil Shakir catches the ball short and takes it 51 yards to the house with one of the best yards after catch performances we've seen. This was like vintage Andre Reed stuff from back in the day. Unbelievable play. And for that heroic highlight, that made it my West Herr Drive of the game.
Yeah, if you follow the show or me or have been watching this at all, everybody knows how much I love Khalil Shakir. And this play, it was like when I was loving Taron Johnson and he made the interception for the pick six in the playoffs. And it's like, yeah, that is what I see in this guy. And that is what we saw in this play in Shakir. And just what you needed in a game like this was an explosive like that. Like, if you're going to make a comeback, you can't just matriculate your way down the field to the point we made earlier where you need some explosive plays to go your way and get in 51 yards that it ended up going for this touchdown, going 51 yards with him doing this. Honestly, I posted it a few weeks ago. They've got a lot of decisions to make coming up with James Cook, Khalil Shakir, Greg Rousseau, Benford,
Terrell Bernard,
a bunch of these guys, man. Every single week, Khalil Shakir makes a stronger case that he needs to be one of them.
Terrell Bernard and Khalil Shakir will be Buffalo Bills. I'm the most certain about them. I hope that Greg Rousseau and Christian Benford are also. I'm certain that Terrell Bernard and Khalil Shakir will be Buffalo Bills going forward.
Yeah, he's making himself more valuable every week. His agent's living the dream right now. And it's a touchdown.
Guess what other guy on the team is real sure that he wants Khalil Shakir back?
Yeah, oh yeah. Absolutely. Well, because
the guy whose opinion matters a lot.
He's really like Amari Cooper's fantastic and he can make a lot of plays, but there isn't anyone else on the roster that's got the ability to take something small and make it something big to help Josh. And this is what Josh has not had in his whole time in Buffalo. Like, he's had security blankets. He's had guys. Diggs could go catch everything. He could make that hitch route and come back and get it. There hasn't been a guy that could take a slant or a screen pass and take it 50. Not like this.
Yeah. So, that one really kind of, okay, so now we answered back. We were down there. All right, we just need to get a stop. Instead, we let the Rams go 7 plays, 70 yards. This happened 3.5 minutes. So, they didn't take quite as much time off the clock.
This was an old Madden strategy of mine. I know people love Madden where, like, when I needed the ball back, it's like, yeah, you know what, just go ahead and score.
I'll wait for an interception. I'll go for the sack or interception. If I don't get it, go ahead and score. Yeah. So 21 to Atwell. That was the play where Benford was chasing him. Yeah. Then another deep one to Nakua. This is not going to be a great Rasul Douglas game film wise. And then hits Cooper Kupp on a play where I don't like. It kind of seemed like Douglas could have tried to make a play on the ball in front of it, and he wasn't able to. Rapp was coming over, and he kind of went behind, didn't go in front to make a play on the ball. Ends up hitting Rasul Douglas in the ribs. I know Taylor Rapp had a really rough stretch of friendly fire. We really had avoided that for 13 weeks here. That was a rough one. Was worried that he broke Douglas's ribs. Unfortunately, Douglas was able to come back in initially. Went out again later for another reason. But okay, all right, we're back down 17 again, and now we're down 17 with 18 seconds left in the third quarter. So we got 15 minutes and 18 seconds left in the game, and we're down 3 possessions. Now it feels like, all right, it doesn't really matter anything that goes on here. And I'm like, all right, but we got to keep trying to see if we can score. So we go back out there. We get to 3rd and 10 where it's not looking all that great.
Not great.
And now Josh runs for 20 yards and gets another probably like not BS, but ticky-tack horse collar call. Like, he did put his hand up there to do it, but he didn't actually pull him down. Another one that I'd be mad if we got against us.
For sure.
And then he hits Khalil Shakir on an awesome one down to the 1 yard line, comes up, punch it in. I'm like, all right, we're back down 10 again. Can we finally get a stop?
Please, I was begging and praying.
Praise the Lord. We actually got a stop. Okay. First, there was a little bit of a drop by Hunter Long. Then we get a stuff on Kyren Williams, a really nice play, a run blitz from DeMar Hamlin. Then we get the 8-yard run, and I was a little nervous here if they were going to try to go for it. It was 4th and 2. It was at their own 38. Again, a situation where if they're not down 10, maybe they go for it, but we get the punt. They punt it back to us. But it's an awesome punt down to the 9-yard line. And now we have to go all the way, and they do 10 plays, 91 yards. This was my other semifinalist for West Herr Drive of the game. Couple fantastic plays here. One was another 30-yard scramble that was probably his least impressive scramble because there was nobody in the screen for the first 15 yards of the scramble. But they keep moving their way down the field. He had the really nice play where you saw Jared Verse trying to come off the field, where he catches them for the 12 men on the field, and then hit Mac Howens on a really nice slot fade, where he puts it in the perfect spot. Just a gorgeous catch. Mac Howens holds onto the ball, catches it. They get it back to where they've now got it 38-35, and hey, holy crap, there's 8.5 minutes left here, and we somehow made this a football game. How in the world did this happen?
Yeah, it's again, there were so many times here in the second half where I didn't tweet it out or say anything, but in my mind it's man, every time Rams scored, it's man, well that's a wrap. Right, we're gonna make a mistake here. We're not gonna be able to maintain this efficiency on offense, and they're just gonna keep scoring. But they just stuck in it. And that throw to Hollins on that touchdown was just, that's just Josh being in his bag. We saw, I don't want to get it twisted. This game was so tough to see, so tough to watch the result of this game. But we saw such elite quarterback play from both sides of the ball tonight. The throws that were if you're a QB class or whatever, any of these QB YouTube channels, this game is drugs for you all night, all-time performance. And this throw will be in
legitimately up there with the Mahomes Allen playoff game. Yeah. Actually, people forget the first 50 minutes of that game wasn't actually that great. It was an awesome ending with haymakers to end the game. But actually the first 50 minutes was kind of a defensive battle. And then they scored, on 6 straight possessions to end the game. Yeah. But it actually wasn't that kind of game all the way to it. So now we're in the spot where, okay, we're within 3. We got to get a stop here.
Yeah.
We kick the ball to them with 8 minutes and 49 seconds. And this is the one where we get multiple times. The really hard one was for a lot of the stuff they called during the game. Jamarcus Ingram had a little bit of contact on the play that he was there with Nacua, but enough, and it was, especially when he was coming out of his break, he held him. That 3rd and 9 early on, it looked like we had the stop, but they got the penalty call.
Yeah. And what's tough there too is that 1st and 10, you get Vaughn Bernard, who had kind of had a quiet game, get a stuff, and then on the 2nd and 10, they do that Puka sweep again, and Vaughn stuffs it out and puts you into the 3rd and 9 situation where you're just feeling okay, they figured some things out where it's clicking. They've gotten some things, and then you get into a 3rd and 9, and dude, I could hear nothing but Bills Mafia. It was loud in that place. 3rd and 9, and it just felt like even Brady at this point was explaining momentum without even saying momentum. A very long way of getting to hey, the Bills can really capture momentum here. And it felt like that turning point in the game, and the refs get involved, and it is not the turning point in the game. And this was the story for the Rams all night, where every time they got a sliver of whether it was a bailout on a call or making a play, they took advantage of it and continued
capitalized. Yeah. So now they're at our 40. They get Kyron goes for 6, and then there's a timeout with because Taryn's hurt. They call it timeout.
Taryn got hurt.
No, the official timeout, not
official
a team timeout.
Yeah.
So now they go back and they try to do the jet sweep again, and now AJ Epinesa blows it up.
Yep.
So now all of a sudden it's 3rd and 7. We're feeling pretty good. And here is where, so Stafford scrambles. I actually was wrong. I was saying 4th and 9. It was 4th and 6. Seeing what happened later, you're now in a spot where we saw them. They went for it on 4th and 5, so they were probably going for it on 4th and 6. So
probably
you're in a spot where now do you just risk it in the spot that you're in that, hey, protect some of the time on the clock? But they don't. They take the penalty to take them back because it's 3rd and 16. You need to be able to make a stop on 3rd and 16. They get 11 yards to Kobe Parkinson. So now it's 4th and 5. They go for it on 4th and 5 again, smartly. The best analytics is do what the other team's fans don't want you to do. I wanted them to kick the field goal and go up 6. So they go for it. They get Tutu Atwell in a little spot because rightfully we were fully focused and we double team Puka Nacua. I watched them go over. Cam Lewis comes up at the last second. They double team Puka Nacua. They were going at the right guys. And of course, if you focus there and we don't get home on any pressure, so Tutu Atwell finds a soft spot and it is open, gets 11 yards on 4th and 5. Again, we get his stuff here. We get him down 5 yards. They get down to 3rd and 5. And Stafford makes a nice throw to Puka Nacua, who's an awesome receiver, and he, they see that we're coming with the all-out blitz.
Great play.
I like that we're bringing the blitz. I don't even know for sure what I would have told them to do differently. That was just an awesome counter in the moment. I want them to bring the house. I want them to go in man coverage and say, hey, listen, we've been sitting back and you guys have been beating us this whole time. Your guys got to beat our guys. They went over there. They made sure they had Benford on Cup. They had Taryn on Puka. We had our 2 best cover guys on their 2 best guys. And they were smart and realized that, hey, our 2 best receivers are also awesome run blockers.
Yeah.
And they made a great call of a quick slip screen. And when you have an all-out cover 0 blitz and the first guy makes the block, those go for a touchdown. It's just how it works. It was a great counter, a great decision. Puka Nacua makes the catch and makes the right cut. Cooper Kupp makes an awesome, perfectly timed block that was there right as he was making the catch, so it was not offensive interference.
They're precise.
And then the tackle is out there and just kind of gives him a convoy on his way to the end zone. Now we're down again. They actually do miss the extra point, so now we're only down 9 technically. And now we're playing that math game. Minute 54 left. We're working our way down the field. We get a 4th and 15 conversion that was interference on Shakir. He did a great job selling it, but it was very obvious face guarding. The DB couldn't get there. That gets us down with the clock stopped at 1:24 at their 16. Josh scrambles out of bounds for 9. Now we're in a spot where we get another one that probably was wasn't egregious. There was some contact in the end zone, but I'd be mad if I was a Rams fan.
Yeah.
That one was not egregious. There was contact, but I'll say this. It was probably about the same amount of contact that Jamarcus Ingram had on Puka on the one that got called for them. They were both kind of ticky-tack, maybe a little bit less even. But that puts us down at the 1, and this is the one that everybody's going to go crazy about, and I've already seen in some comments that I don't know that I love McDermott's answer in the postgame presser. They call the quarterback sneak. And I get it. You need your guys to convert. Hey, that's their highest likelihood play. You just can't do it. We're also really good at passing the ball. And I trust that Khalil Shakir could get open, or that Amari Cooper could catch a back shoulder, or that, we could find an open spot.
Run from the pass.
Yeah. Roll out and give them some options. Instead we get stuffed, and now we got to burn one of those 3 timeouts and then score on the next play. That's fine. We scored on the next play, but instead, if we call a pass and score there and we have the 3 timeouts, we can kick it off. We don't have to try the onsides. We can just have them start from the 30. And if we get the same 3 and out that we did, we get the ball back, down 3, down 2 with that much time left. It's just, you can't have those in these moments. And again, you and I have defended McDermott as much or more than any other content creators. He's a great coach. He's a huge reason that we're in this position with 5 straight division championships, 4 straight seasons with a playoff win, winningest, highest winning percentage in franchise history. I get why people get frustrated. These situations, the end of the Texans game, obviously the previous playoff games, some of it's hard to have confidence that, in this next really critical, stressful, rushed end of game situation, this one he's going to get just right, when there are examples of where we find a way to make the wrong decision in these spots.
Yes, there are also examples of them finishing off games the correct way and winning close games. They've won a lot of 1-score games as well. We've remember
winning field goals this season. We've had an end of game, close games that we've clinched and won with good end of game management.
Yeah, and those it's a tough one, right? Because nobody cares. It's expected. Yeah. No one is going to necessarily talk about it and remember it. And when these happen, they're obviously going to be the talk, and it compiles over time. Again, I would just encourage people to zoom out a little bit and look at the league. It is stuff we see. I don't think it was a fireable offense like we saw from Eberflus on Thanksgiving, where that was a
where they
total
don't even get a playoff to be able to do it.
total debacle there. And a lot of hands were in on these decisions. And like you said, they weren't guaranteed decisions by any of the metrics. They're all kind of coin tosses of how they go, and they all seem to be compounded by the plays that happened before them. All of the calls and the questions were, in hindsight, if the play before it doesn't be what it ended up being and the result is what it was, then this call is a lot easier. We don't even have to make that call. So it just kind of compiled and got out of it. But the fact that they were in that game as well is a testament to the type of culture that this team has and what they've done to this is their worst loss of the season, and it was a 2-point loss on the road traveling out west against a really good offense and a team that was desperate to win and fighting to stay alive in their division. And if their only path to getting a playoff spot is winning their division, where the Bills, I want them to win out. I want them to do other stuff. Yeah, the 1 seed would be fantastic. That's great. You can also get a bye at the end of this season if they're the 2 or 3 seed by
you don't need week 18.
You don't need week 18 and you can rest. So I even said it before the game. I didn't love this matchup, Craig. The closer we got to it, I felt even worse about the defense against this matchup against a healthy Rams team and the way that I thought that they could expose some of the things about the Bills defense. What I wanted the most was yes, I want to win. Yes, I want the bye. Yeah, all those things are the things I obviously want. Most importantly, I want to get out of this one healthy and just keep chugging and work towards playing your best football heading into the playoffs. We know the Bills have a chance. They're going to punch a ticket. They punched their ticket to the playoffs. And I don't, hope's not a plan, but I hope this type of coaching stuff doesn't rear its head come playoffs. The most concerning thing that I've heard and seen in the chat is that there was 9 guys on the field. They were talking about why didn't you go for the block, and a blocked punt, we did see it happen in this game. It's such a rare, it's like returning an onside kick. It's a rare.
I still wanted to see it because I wanted to make sure they didn't do hey, give the guy a casual extra step or two to take his time and run the clock out, which he was able to do standard process and run the clock out because the snap, a step, and then a 4-second hang time is the 6-7 seconds that we had left. That it wasn't going to work out either way. But all the more reason that our only chance was blocking it. That was so. I was actually even mad that they had guys covering the gunners.
Sure.
I dare you to execute a punter making that
with
pass.
Pressure,
I dare you
with pressure and stuff. Yeah, go for it. If that's how you win on a little pass, congratulations, and you're going all out cover or full out blitz. That to me though, again, it ultimately poop rolls uphill. It is on Sean McDermott, but this to me tells me Smiley has no business being the special teams coordinator. They're not going to make a move at this point in the season. This is a good team that just won their division already, so they've got a playoff ticket. But I know people say it's a scapegoat, but Smiley needs to go at the end of this. There's just too much of it. Special teams play too much of a role in this game, and it's just not consistent enough. It's been an inconsistency all year, and so that one is probably the thing that frustrated me the most. I'm going to go listen to the post-game press conference as I just cry myself to sleep listening to it tonight. But it doesn't sound great, the post-game presser.
One quick one, Frank here asking, how was that last LA touchdown not a pick? One, it was perfect execution. Contact within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage is not interference on the offense. So they execute, and he timed it perfectly. If you broke it down to the 100th of a second, maybe he technically got there a split second before Puka caught the ball, but it was perfect execution. Puka caught it right as Cooper Kupp was coming down. They were right at the line of scrimmage. Puka caught it behind the line of scrimmage. Kupp was at the line of scrimmage. And then he ran upfield for a slip screen. It was exceptional, perfect execution. It wasn't a big play because they executed it perfectly. Their timing was exceptional. It unfortunately just was.
Yes.
It's just a great play call with perfect execution.
Whiskey here. No, we are not funded by the Bills. In fact, the Bills have not liked us. And
Correct. I've actually had to have legal responses on multiple occasions. Based on our response here.
Yeah, so no, we just have different opinions than you on certain things. And I'm not, I said it after the game, nobody can get here because of where this team is and what I see for this team and how good I've seen this team play. You guys can't force me to be as mad as you are about this loss. Like,
also, I already said that.
right.
Yes, we shouldn't have called the timeout.
Yeah.
They should have gotten up and ran a play or spiked it. It would have been better. It still would have been bad. The play call was worse.
Correct.
The play call was worse than the timeout decision because it put you in that position. But if they get off the pile, hurry up, run a pass play, and score, they probably score around 30 seconds, which was better than taking the timeout at 51 seconds because now you can't get the stop on defense. Right. So yes, that compounded it. The horrible part was letting Josh make it a play call where Josh goes and runs the quarterback sneak. That was so you should be mad at Brady, not McDermott. Then calling the timeout made it worse, but I said it made it worse. I already said that earlier and said it again now. So I have no idea who you think works for the Bills organization. I just said that he messed up.
He tuned in late. He said he tuned in late. Yeah, no, we don't work for the Bills, man. And I'm critical of the Bills all the time. Like, I'm not as critical as you will find people on Twitter. There's shows out there on YouTube right now where people are just dunking on the Bills. That's fine. You're welcome to go watch that. We are critical here, just not as critical as some would like us to be. Yeah. Sorry, apologize. For that.
I mean, I could yell more if you like.
No,
there are people out there yelling more than us right now. You can find it.
Yes.
Speaking of which, thank you for everybody who's hung out with us here for over 90 minutes. This has been awesome. Press the like button. Please help us out. Leave a comment in there. Tons of contributions in there. We tried to get through all the super chats. I don't know if we got every single one. I think we got to almost all of them. Patton, you might say our defense today was indefensible. All right. I'm not ready for dad jokes, but I appreciate the effort. You get kudos for the 42 earlier today. Aaron, anything else? What to think of? I planned on doing a show after the Chiefs and the Chargers. I don't even know if I want to now, but I'm going to go through some of the different scenarios. We'll see what happens with Chiefs Chargers tonight, and talk about some of the other games today, where this does put us now that we try to step away from the results of the game, what happened with the other games today, who won the last bye week. Now, what does that put us in with the results for the last week? That'll be kind of the focus of my Greg Tompsett football shows as we go forward here. Just a quick look at where the games played out and what it did for the Bills each week. So we'll look at that later on tonight.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that you're doing that and kind of just wash this one away. Like, I knew at some point they were going to drop a game that was going to be frustrating. I don't love the manner at which this one was dropped, but I'm not going to throw I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater on this team. We were just talking last week, is this the best team since the 90s, right? Like, just because one result didn't go our way. And again, you didn't get walked in this game. Like, the defense had a bad day. You lost by 2 points, and it's frustrating, and there's a lot to pick over and put under a microscope, but I'm going to try to frame it in the reality of where the team is at. A lot of bad football was played today across the NFL. The Bills weren't perfect, but they were probably still one of the better teams in the NFL today. They just ran up against a team that had a better day, and probably their best day in years. And that is what it takes for a team to beat the Bills, is you have to come out and play your best day and get a crazy special teams turnover.
We actually scored more offensive points than them today. Yeah. They needed 37 offensive points and a blocked field goal to beat our 42.
Yeah. And the problem for the defense, I talked about a little bit last week, is like, how sustainable are these turnovers? Can they maintain the turnover margins that they had? Well, we saw what happened today is they weren't able to generate any turnovers when you really needed one. And that's not going to be the path for the Bills to win. And so they got to figure out some stuff. That's what, if you follow me on any Blue Sky, Twitter, whatever it is, tomorrow I'm going to be getting right into.
We've been spending more time on Facebook lately.
Over on their Facebook group.
We had a whole bunch of comments from our Facebook chat earlier today. So hello to everybody over there. We've been trying to make a better concerted effort to talk with people over there.
If you're over there, look us up, Cover One Buffalo. We got a group over there. We'd love to have you come join us. But yeah, I'm going to be breaking down some of this defense, and I'll try to be myself, which is as objective as possible. So it's not going to be pretty. I'm not looking forward to it at all. It's not going to be fun, but I want to watch this one.
I'll be slightly more emotional and slightly more upset than Aaron.
Yeah.
But I still won't be as mad as you want me to be.
It's not going to get any easier next week, Greg.
No, it's going to get worse. Dude, Detroit's awesome. Detroit's a freaking juggernaut.
But you know what? Then those are some tough teams that we got here, but I still like this team. I like where we're heading.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, producer Chris, for sitting through 100 minutes of comments through the chat. He read through a lot of your comments that I didn't read, so kudos to him for reading those. Thank you, everybody in here. Again, please leave us a rating, a review, a comment. For a lot of people tagged us in their Spotify Wrapped for the year, and that's really cool to see that we were at the top of a bunch of people's Spotify Wrapped. I think we had it was like 394 top fans or something like that. That was
Something like
really
that.
cool. Like that's a really cool thing to see.
Yeah.
So thank you very, very much for the people who somehow listen to us more than any other show they listen to. That's a really, really heartwarming thing to see, and appreciate all the work that we put in for you guys. But on behalf of fantastic producer Chris Kepner and my wonderful partner, crime Aaron Quinn, I am Greg Tompsett. You have been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are out.